Hi, Pat Sullivan here from Sullivan Hardware and Garden, and I'm here with Tree Shaper Ann, is what we like to call her. All right, so you've spent the big bucks and you've bought a good quality Christmas tree, pre-lit artificial Christmas tree, and sometimes our customers wonder, well, why doesn't my tree look like your trees here at Sullivan Hardware and Garden? Well, you know what? We're going to go through a few tips to show you how your tree can look exactly like ours. First, we start with just opening the tree and getting it out of the box. Now, this sounds kind of simple, and well, it really is, but there's a couple things to kind of protect your tree. All right, so we've got this thing laid out, and now it doesn't sound like a big deal getting it out of the box, but you want to be really organized, pull the stuff out gently. And the other thing I might mention too before we go any further, you know, most of these companies have a warranty from, anywhere from 3 years to 5 years, but you have to register your tree. Most of them can be done online, some of them you still have to send in a card, so make sure, yes, that you register your Christmas tree. Now, you notice that we're working on a table. Well, you know what? We're not stupid. You're going to do a better job if you're comfortable while you're working. So Ann, every time she does a tree, always is working up on a table, and we do it section by section, correct?
Correct.
All right. So when we pull this thing off, what we're trying to do is we want to let this thing out gently so that it doesn't pull. Remember, these are all pre-lit trees. All the lights are on them, and so we want to drop the branches gently so that we don't run the risk of pulling a wire out of a socket. All right, we've got our first section up on the table. Once again, we're working on the table. It's nice and easy. We're not going to get tired, and if we're tired, Ann, we're going to do a better job. So why is it, instead of, I would say most people, most of our customers, they'll put the entire tree together that's on the floor and they start working. Why do you do it this way?
We do it this way so that we can get back into the back of the tree branch so we can shape it easier and not be running into branches.
So you start in the back, and that's what fills the tree out, because if what most people want to do, they want to play here on the end, and then the tree looks hollow, and then they come after us and want to accuse us of selling them a different tree. So why don't you go in and start really on one of those lower branches and kind of show us how you'd shape that out.
Okay. You start in the back, and you can kind of feel how these pieces of branch want to go. You're going to want to do one up and two down. You do it this way, you cover up your trunk of your tree, so when you look at it, all you see are the pretty branches instead of a metal trunk. Now with this tree, this has two branches that fold out to make it a little fuller. So those you fold out first, and then bring up your branches. Now most trees have a leader branch. This one comes up, and then you have two that come down. So you kind of have a shape like a hand.
All right, so Ann, then you would just go along the entire bottom doing each branch. You move to the next level, correct?
Next section.
All right, so what happens now when we get this first section? This is the bottom section of a 6.5 foot tree. Once we're done here, what do we do next? We add the next one on top?
This one I would take out of the stand, set it aside, and then I put your next section on top of the stand, so you can do that one on the table also.
All right, so just remove this whole thing, lay it, kind of set it, lean it against something. It won't damage what you've done.
No.
You lay the next section in, and now we repeat the same thing, pull that out, and then in this case, there's just one more section, which will be the top. We lay the top in, and we do the top. So how long would it take to shape the average, so let's say 7.5 foot tree?
The average tree takes about 1 to 2 hours, depending on how fast you are.
Of course, you're probably bragging because you're Tree Shaper Ann, and you can probably do it in about 45 minutes. But the average person.
The average person.
So plan on spending an hour or two.
About an hour or two to do an average tree, and it does get easier the second year. Once you've already fluffed it.
I was going to ask you that, so it is easier.
It goes
next
much
year.
quicker.
All right, so that brings us to our next point, next year. Now, these things come out of a box. We do all the shaping. They fit back in the box very well?
No.
So that's a problem. So in an ideal world, the problem is when you put these things back in the box, and if you go jamming them in, once you've got this thing all shaped up and you jam it in the box, you really run the risk of damaging the electrical. We're always worried about the lighting systems on these things and pulling a wire out of a socket. So what we'd rather have you do is kind of split it up. Use the box, put a piece in the box, and then you can buy a tree bag. And then you put the additional 2 or 3 pieces in a tree bag and kind of split it up. I know it takes a little more storage space, but your tree's going to last a lot longer.
A lot longer.
Oh, Ann, man, I tell you what, you made fast work of this tree.
Doesn't that look
absolutely
great?
Beautiful. So now I noticed you're just doing a last night. Now you've went ahead and stacked the 3 pieces. doing just your final kind of, I mean, what do you do on the last little final go through?
When I go through the final look, I look at the tree and I want to make sure that there isn't a line where
between
each
the
branch
sections.
is. So you want to bring some sections down to cover up any holes you.
Kind of molding them together a little bit.
That's correct.
All right, so maintenance-wise, now first of all, you know what? I would like to talk about the new lighting system. You know, there's a system, we're all frustrated by lights, and I know some of the biggest complaints that we'll get is, you know, it's frustrating when somebody gets a tree decorated and the lights go out. Well, some of the newer trees have lighting technologies. This one's called stay-lit lighting technology. And the difference with a stay-lit technology, I can pull a bulb out of there and you see the lights have remained on the tree. Each socket is individual rather than running together, so it's a lot easier. This has been great. It adds a little bit to the price of the tree, but you know what? It's well worth the extra money. Now, what about, Ian, when people pull the tree out the next year, what's the first thing you should do?
First thing you should do is check your lights. Any bulbs that are out need to be replaced.
All right, because burnout bulbs can actually, especially on the older lighting systems, as one bulb goes out, that voltage then is spread among the next 49 on that set, and the next one goes out, and what we end up with is called cascading light failure, where one goes and eventually the entire set goes out, then you come and scream at us. It's great. So if you check that, do a little maintenance, really most of the trees that we get in for a repair, they're just burnout bulbs, and once we start replacing bulbs, the set comes back on. So if you just do a little maintenance, year to year, replace the burnout bulbs, it does make a difference. That'll really fix it up. All right, we've got a great selection here at Sullivan Hardware. Hope this has helped, and I hope your tree looks just like ours, because trust me, they're the same trees. Hopefully you'll stop by Sullivan Hardware and Garden and check out Christmas this year.